Hey guys, and welcome to the Wild West Gamer with me, the Wild West Gamer, sat here bringing you guys a film review. And today I bring you a film review of Pacific Rim. That's right, the summer blockbuster which pits giant robots fighting giant aliens is probably one of the better films I've seen this year. If I'm honest, it's a really good film, but for a Guillermo del Toro film, who is the director, yeah, that's where it's going to get a little bit interesting. So, Guillermo del Toro, for those of you who don't know who Guillermo del Toro is, he is a Spanish director who has done films like Kronos. He did the Hellboy films. He's done Pan's Labyrinth. He's done very visually stylistic films. Each one has had a very distinct feel and look about it. He's very much about practical effects, very much about very elaborate sets, very immersive, fantastic worlds. Yeah, you know, all of his films feel like a very dark, gritty fairy tale. And that's fantastic. It really is. It's brilliant. But Pacific Rim, the problem with Pacific Rim is the fact there is so much CGI in it. Now, it's not a CGI fest as far as the CGI is used mindlessly for, no reason at all. There is a point. It's used very well. Everything that it's used on looks great. It looks fantastic. But because it's so computer generated and there's very little in the way of actual practical effects and those big elaborate sets I was talking about with regard to like films like Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy, there's not really much of a treat for the eyes, and that sounds weird, but there really isn't. There are things like Hong Kong with all of its neon cityscape and lights and all that sort of stuff. The kaiju do look brilliant. They, the blue fluorescent glow they have and things like that. The Jaegers all look fantastic. They look awesome. But for me, there wasn't that, that really organic feel to the sets, to the film itself. And that really sucked, if I'm honest. I really missed that. Guillermo del Toro has made a good film. I just personally wish that it had more of a practical edge to it. But there's not really a way he could have done that. Unless he used actual mechanical mini robots, actually specially made for the film. And that would have been a cool idea again, though. It probably would have looked clunky and it would have looked a bit, all over the place. Right. I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know really if it's just me who feels like that, or if it's a lot of people. I would say, though, to people who want to watch it, just ignore the naysayers who naysay it for stupid reasons, like it looks like Power Rangers or it looks like Transformers. They're talking out their backsides. It doesn't look like either of those. It certainly looks like its own film. If you watch Transformers and watch this, you're not going to go, well, isn't this the same film? And if you watch Power Rangers and you watch this, you're not going to go, my God, this is exactly the same thing. They don't look the same. It's like saying that Aliens and Saving Private Ryan are the same film because they both have soldiers in them, even though one's set in the future with aliens and the other one's set during World War II. It's stupid. It's just people being nitpicky and they just don't like things that people get excited about. Ignore them. I would recommend everyone goes and sees this. It's just that if you're a Guillermo del Toro fan, you are going to really miss, like I did, the really practical, elaborate effects. That's not to say there aren't. Like I said, there's not bad set design. There is good stuff. I just think it's because it's not set completely in like a fantasy-esque dark fairy tale like world like Hellboy and like Pan's Labyrinth is set in, which are films that I really loved. Perhaps that's just me personally, and it feels bad to say that. I shouldn't nitpick a film for trying something new. It's just that I know Guillermo del Toro does fantastic stuff like that, and I wish he could have somehow done that. But there are great design pieces. I can't really distinguish between what was CGI and what wasn't, with regard to some of the things like the Jaeger hangar. I know that wasn't completely practical, because I mean we're talking about a structure that would be over 1,000 feet high, and I don't think there's ever been a set design that's been that big. But some of it was practical and that looked cool. Things like Hannibal Caine, I think his name is, Ron Perlman's character, his black market headquarters. That looks great. That looks really cool. Some of the science laboratories look quite cool in there. There's a bit with a downed kaiju, which looks pretty cool as well. So there are little things like that. It's just not the whole film is set in that sort of environment. So yeah. But getting onto the real meat of the film. The film is basically the story of Earth is being attacked by these giant aliens that are coming through this interdimensional tear in the fabric of space at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The creatures then pour out from there and attack the various countries surrounding the Pacific Ocean: Australia, Japan, America, what else? China, Russia, places like that. They're wrecking havoc. They are really laying into humanity. They are, destroying entire cities, and they're only getting bigger and more powerful. Humanity, can't fight them with conventional means. They're certainly not going to start using nuclear weapons on them, because that means wiping out entire cities. But at the same time, jets and tanks and infantry just aren't doing the job. So they create the Jaegers, giant 300-foot tall mechanized warriors, which are piloted by two human pilots, because one pilot can't cope with the mental strain of powering it all by themselves. So one pilot takes the right side of the brain, and the other pilot takes the left side, and they synchronize through something called the drift. And the drift is where the two pilots share memories in a continuously flowing river, I guess, and their minds become synchronized, and then they are able to control the Jaegers effectively. It's a really cool idea. It's not just a gimmick. It's referred to throughout the film. It's fantastic. The consequences of losing a pilot, and how that affects the surviving pilot are talked about. Different what happens if one pilot gets caught up on a memory, stuff like that. It's really cool. It's really explored. It plays a big part, which is really cool. Nothing's left unexplained. You learn a lot. There's a nice beginning, a prologue, where we learn about how the world's become so kind of degenerated, really. Society has both broken down and unified. We've unified in our acceptance of the end of the world, which is kind of a cool idea. The Jaeger program is being decommissioned. The leading countries find that the program is too expensive, and really the Jaegers are... Well, there are barely any Jaegers left. There are like 4 or 5 Jaegers left. The other ones have all been destroyed, and the leading countries around the Pacific believe the best way to defend themselves is to build a giant wall to just keep the Pacific Ocean sort of isolated, and keep the kaiju locked in there. But that, of course, that won't work. These things are getting bigger and bigger, and it's shown in the film that they can just smash clean through it. So Idris Elba's character, who is the leader of the Jaeger program, devises a plan for the last remaining Jaegers to assault the underwater, the undersea portal, and end the war for good. And that's basically where the film goes from. And it's fantastic. It's, like I say, it's a really good film. It's really fun. I mean, as far as how the scale of the film, you really get a sense of the power of everything in this. Both the kaiju and the Jaegers are walking weapons of mass destruction. I mean, thank God the Jaegers are on our side, because if they were turned against us, they could wipe out countries by themselves. They really could. They are massive weapons of destruction. Fortunately, though, they're turned against the kaiju, who do want to destroy us, and who are trying to. So the battles are spectacular, whether they're at sea or whether they're on land. They are fantastic, and watching the two go at each other. He's just great. It really is. There are some nice little touches to each fight to make them really unique. All of the Jaegers look unique. All of the kaiju look unique. And it's just really satisfying to watch them, beat the crap out of each other. The action is slower paced than films like Transformers, so you aren't going to be going, "Who the hell is beating each other up now?" I don't know if that's Megatron's face or Optimus Prime's ass. With this film, you know what's happening. You can keep an eye on Gypsy Danger, and an eye on the kaiju. Gypsy Danger, for those of you who don't know, is like the lead Jaeger. It's like the hero Jaeger. Of the film, you can keep an eye on both of them, duking it out, and who's who. You're not there going, I have not a fucking clue what is going on. I just know that something is beating the crap out of the other one. You know what's going on, and it's really cool. It's really, really well done film with that regard. And the characters are also really likable. Can't remember any of their names apart from Idris Elba's character. Idris Elba is awesome in this film. He plays Major Pentecost, I think. The other guy, I believe his actual real name is Charlie Brunham, I don't know. He plays a Jaeger pilot who, after one particular battle, called it a day. Retreated to Alaska to help build the wall, but has been approached by Major Pentecost for one last operation, shall we say, because he is an exceptional Jaeger pilot. There is then, I can't remember her name, there's the Japanese chick you've seen in the trailers. She plays another Jaeger pilot, and their relationship is explored in the film in ways that I think for a Hollywood film are very mature. It could have very easily become, oh hey, she's a female, she's quite pretty, let's just have her get her tits out and let's call it a day. It's not that though. It's more than that. Their relationship is explored not through them getting it on, but through them, them being synchronized with each other's memories, which is a really nice touch. It's a really clever idea because they learn about each other by living each other's memories, and it's a really clever idea in the film. What's really nice is it's explained how important this is. Because in films, in any war, this kind of is a war film, really. In any war film, you have to believe that these soldiers fighting, are comrades in arms. They've been through years of fighting in the trenches with each other. They're like brothers. They're really close. And sometimes that doesn't work because with an hour and a half of film, you can only show so much. In this film, they really, just through what you see and what's said and how it's explained, you really gain an understanding of how important it is when the two pilots are mentally locked. You gain the idea, I think it's the main bloke he says, I say Charlie Brunham or whatever his name is. He says that the mind, when you're linked, that you live another person's life and you see how they see you, and when you feel what they're scared of and you feel what they love and things like that, and all those sorts of things, they really make two people very close. And they say it's kind of explained like a love that's deeper than love. It's not like a sexual love. It's like a genuine love of the very essence of a person. And when you lose that, it's a very traumatic thing. It's like it is kind of like a love relationship, because you don't want to open up again. You're scared about that feeling being taken away, of being, of losing someone else. And it's fantastic. It's such a clever concept and really well done. And I would love to see it explored in another one of these films. Likewise, this film also has some comic elements to it, which is awesome. The scientist called Newt and the other scientist called Herman are fantastic. One's very comic, one's very deadpan. They're fantastic together. It's just great. It's really, really good film. You've got action. You've got intelligent clever sci-fi concepts. It's a sci-fi film, so there's lots of sort of future tech in there. There's comedy. There's sort of subtle elements of a love story, but it's more like a spiritual love story as opposed to an actual, like I said, just a shagathon. It's just a really good film, and it's like I say, it's because I know that if this was all transplanted onto a very practical based film that I know Guillermo del Toro normally does, perhaps I would be more like, this is like a genuinely fantastic award-winning film. And I really mean it. The concepts are really deep and mature and really grown up, and this is why I think it's probably not doing as well at the box office as it should be, because it's being advertised as this big fighty robot versus aliens film, when at the same time it's very deep and subtle and there's a lot more going on to it. And I really think Hollywood's to blame for continually misinterpreting what film should be. If Guillermo del Toro was responsible for the marketing of this film, I think he would market it as being a cerebral sci-fi action film, which explores the elements of spiritualism, of camaraderie, of things like that, that sort of stuff. Whereas Hollywood has blatantly, advertised this as, aliens beating the shit out of robots and vice versa, and and that just doesn't do any favors, doesn't do anyone any favors. So I would say ignore the marketing, just go and see it. It's like Dread. It's a film that's not going to do fantastic, and it may mean that the chances of a sequel are hurt in the future, but it's definitely worth a look. I don't think it's as good as Dread. Dread was one of the best films of last year, but it certainly is a good film, and I certainly think it's better than Despicable Me 2 and Grown Ups 2. Those two films, I just don't think anyone should be going to see. They just look boring and tired, and this is a genuinely original idea. It's Guillermo del Toro's love letter to the kaiju films, of the 70s and the 80s, the big Japanese guys in rubber suits dressed as monsters fighting each other. It's a love letter to those sorts of films, as well as sort of every anime, mecha film, like Gundam and stuff like that. It really is a love letter to those two genres of films, and it's something that, if you're a geek like me, you're going to love, because you are going to see references to those two cultural phenomenons, especially cultural phenomenons in Japan, and that have slightly been transplanted over to the West. This is a very Western take on that, and it's very cool. It's really nice to see that. This is the last thing, but also another thing is that the Guillermo del Toro has said he didn't want the film to be about America saving the world. He wanted it to be about the world saving the world. So you have Australians, you have the Japanese, you have the Russians, and you do have the Americans. And what's nice is none of them are like stereotype. None of them are like the typical drunk Aussie, or the typical the really super intelligent Asian, stuff like that. None of those borderline racist sort of stereotypes that Michael Bay seems to be really keen on cramming into his films. Everyone in this is paid respect. The Russians are done really. I mean, the Russians, all right. The Russians are the silent, strong, stoic type, but it's still they're really cool, and they are awesome in this film. It's a shame that you don't see as much of them as we could do, but they are awesome. They really are. Likewise, the Japanese character, the Japanese Jaeger, and the characters in that, they're really cool. Again, they're triplets. They're three brothers, and you really get this idea of sort of this very tight knit, this bond between them. This sort of reluctance to perhaps hang around with the other Jaeger pilots, perhaps a little bit of mistrust. But when they actually fight, they're awesome. They're absolutely amazing. And likewise with the Australians, who probably are get the second amount of most amount of screen. That sentence came out completely fucked. Really cool. They're really awesome as well. Genuinely, really, really cool to see Australians represented awesomely in a film. Because I don't really know many Australian sort of characters in films, and I'd like to see more. They were really well done. Like I say, they weren't running around, trying to cook prawns on a Barbie with a Foster's. They were done in a mature way. And again, like I say, if you're going to get a director to a film, don't get a Hollywood one. Don't get a guy who's going to just turn everyone into a generic, stereotyped asshole. Get a director like Guillermo del Toro. He will give you mature, clever, original characters and ideas. And so, like I say, as far as it goes, as far as Pacific Rim goes, check it out, see it. You're going to enjoy it. It's good fun, and it does. Like I say, the ending is rather like, okay, I don't really see where this is going to go, because that's quite a nice tight knot you've wrapped on that one. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in the future. So, guys, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, subscribe, leave comments, thumbs up, all that jazz. Hope you enjoyed yourselves, and I will see you later. And hopefully, you guys will have a good time. See you later. Bye, bye, bye.